Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you are having a peaceful day. Today, I want to share 7 powerful stories from ancient history. It's stories about ambition, about courage, about a young king who refused to accept limits. More than 2,000 years ago, one man set out to conquer the known world. He marched through deserts and mountains. He led armies into impossible battles. He faced empires that looked invincible, and somehow he kept winning. By the age of 30, he had built one of the largest empires in human history. His name was Alexander the Great. But Alexander was not born a legend. Greatness leaves clues, and his story started long before the battles, when he was just a boy. Let me tell you the first story. The boy who understood fear. One day, a magnificent black horse was brought to the royal palace. It was powerful, fast, beautiful. But there was a problem. No one could ride it. The strongest warriors tried. Experienced horsemen tried. The animal kicked, screamed, and threw everyone to the ground. People said the horse was wild, useless, impossible to tame. King Philip, Alexander's father, was disappointed. He ordered the horse to be taken away. But young Alexander stepped forward. He looked closely, not at the muscles, not at the size. He watched the horse's eyes, its movements, its fear. Then he noticed something strange. The horse was afraid of its own shadow. So Alexander gently turned the horse toward the sun. The shadow disappeared. The animal calmed down. He spoke softly, moved slowly, and in one smooth motion he mounted the horse. The crowd fell silent. Then Alexander rode across the field with perfect control. The same horse that no one could handle now obeyed a boy. His father looked at him in shock and proudly said, "My son, Macedonia is too small for you. You must find a bigger kingdom." The horse's name was Bucephalus, and he would carry Alexander through many future battles. But this moment was more than a childhood story. It revealed something important. Alexander did not just see strength. He understood fear. He observed. He thought differently. And leaders who understand fear can lead anyone. This was the first sign that the world would one day call him Alexander the Great. Story 2. The Prince Who Learned to Think. Taming a wild horse showed Alexander's courage. But courage alone does not build an empire. To rule the world, he first had to train his mind. So his father made an unusual decision. He invited the greatest teacher alive to educate his son. His name was Aristotle, a philosopher, a scientist, one of the smartest men in history. Instead of growing up only with soldiers and weapons, Alexander grew up with ideas. He studied philosophy, how to think clearly. He studied science, how the world works. He studied medicine, how to save lives. He studied geography, to understand distant lands. He read poetry and history to learn from the past. Lessons did not happen in a noisy palace. They studied in quiet gardens and open nature. They asked questions, debated, explored. Aristotle did not just give answers. He taught Alexander how to ask better questions, how to stay curious, how to analyze problems, how to make wise decisions. This shaped the young prince in a powerful way. Alexander stopped seeing the world as borders and enemies. He saw cultures, knowledge, opportunities. Years later, when he conquered new lands, he did not simply destroy them. He built cities, spread knowledge, connected civilizations. Because he understood something many warriors did not. Real power is not only in the sword. It is in the mind. And long before he led armies, Alexander learned how to lead ideas. This education turned a brave boy into a strategic thinker. and strategic thinkers change history. Story 3. The Young King Who Faced Chaos. Alexander was only 20 years old when his world suddenly changed. His father, King Philip, was assassinated. One moment he was a prince. The next moment he was king. No preparation, no time to grieve, only pressure. And the kingdom was on the edge of collapse. Enemies saw weakness. Rival states prepared to rebel. Even some allies stopped trusting the throne. Many believed the young king would fail. They saw his age, his inexperience, his youth. But Alexander moved fast. He secured the army, eliminated political rivals, sent a clear message across the region. The throne was not empty. Power had not disappeared. It had a new owner. Then came the real test. Several Greek cities revolted. They thought a young ruler would hesitate. Alexander did the opposite. He marched his army south with incredible speed. City after city surrendered without a fight. All except one, Thebes. Thebes resisted. Alexander surrounded the city, attacked, and destroyed it completely. It was a brutal decision, but it shocked the entire Greek world. No one rebelled again. In just months, a boy king became an unquestioned ruler. This moment revealed something critical. Alexander did not freeze in crisis. He acted. He understood that leadership means making hard decisions, fast decisions, decisions others fear to make. And from that point on, no one doubted his authority. The young prince was gone. A king had risen. Story 4. The Battle That Changed the World. Becoming king was only the beginning. Alexander wanted more than a stable throne. He wanted glory. He wanted history to remember his name. So he did something unthinkable. He challenged the greatest superpower of his time, the Persian Empire. Persia was enormous, rich, powerful. Its army was legendary. Its king, Darius III, ruled lands stretching across continents. Most leaders would avoid such an enemy. Alexander marched toward it. After months of campaign, the two armies finally met near a place called Gaugamela. What Alexander saw was terrifying. The Persian army covered the horizon. Tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, chariots with blades, war elephants. His own army was much smaller. His generals were nervous. Some suggested retreat. Alexander refused. He studied the battlefield carefully. Every hill, every gap, every movement of the enemy. Then he created a bold plan. Instead of attacking head-on, he moved his troops sideways, slowly, patiently. The Persians tried to follow. Their lines stretched thinner and thinner. And then, Alexander saw his moment. A gap opened in the enemy's center. He led the charge himself, straight toward King Darius. The battlefield exploded into chaos. Seeing Alexander coming, Darius panicked and ran. When the king fled, his army lost hope. The mighty Persian Empire collapsed that day. Against impossible odds, a young commander defeated the strongest empire on earth. This victory changed everything. Alexander was no longer just a king. He became a conqueror of empires, a man who could defeat giants. From that moment on, the world feared his name, and his legend began to spread far beyond the battlefield. Story 5. The Knot No One Could Untie. After defeating powerful armies, Alexander continued marching east, through mountains, across rivers, into lands filled with mystery. One day, he arrived in a city called Gordium. There, people told him an ancient legend. Inside a temple stood a chariot tied with a strange knot. The rope was twisted into a complex tangle, so tight, so confusing that no one could untie it. And there was a prophecy. Whoever untied the Gordian knot would become the ruler of all Asia. For centuries, kings and warriors had tried. They pulled, turned, struggled for hours. No one succeeded. Alexander stepped forward. He examined the knot carefully, moved around it, studied every twist. The crowd watched in silence. Was this young conqueror about to fail at a simple rope? Then, suddenly, he drew his sword, and with one powerful strike he cut the knot in half. The rope fell to the ground. Silence, then whispers. Some people were shocked, others were inspired. He had not untied the knot, he had solved the problem differently. Alexander did not waste time trying to follow old rules. He focused on the result. The prophecy did not say how the knot must be undone, only that it must be undone. This moment revealed a powerful truth. Great leaders do not always play the game. Sometimes they change it. And from that day on, cutting the Gordian knot became a symbol of bold decisions and fearless thinking. Story 6. The Conqueror Who United Worlds. Most conquerors leave destruction behind them. Burned cities, broken cultures, endless resentment. Alexander chose a different path. As his empire expanded, he faced a difficult question. How do you rule people who speak different languages, follow different traditions, and worship different gods? Fear alone would not be enough. So Alexander did something unusual for his time. He showed respect. Instead of destroying local traditions, he preserved them. In Egypt, he honored their gods and was welcomed as a rightful ruler. In Persia, he adopted elements of royal dress to show he respected their customs. He did not force everyone to become Macedonian. He built bridges between cultures. He encouraged marriages between his soldiers and local families. He included local leaders in government. He listened. He adapted. And wherever he went, he founded new cities. These cities became centers of trade, education, and cultural exchange. The most famous of them, Alexandria, would later become one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Alexander understood something rare. An empire built only on fear will collapse, but an empire built on connection can last for generations. He was not just expanding territory, he was connecting civilizations. East met west, ideas traveled, knowledge spread, and the world became smaller. This is why historians say Alexander did more than conquer lands. He helped shape a new global culture, a world more connected than ever before. Story 7. The King Who Led from the Front. Many rulers command from safety. They stay behind the lines, protected, distant from danger. Alexander was different. He believed a true leader must share the risks of his people. So he fought beside his soldiers, not behind them, not far away. Beside them. In battle after battle, he rode at the front of the charge, through flying arrows, clashing swords. Pure chaos. His armor was often damaged. His body carried scars from wounds. Once, during a fierce siege, Alexander climbed a ladder to scale the enemy wall. The ladder broke. He fell inside the city, alone, surrounded by enemies. Most kings would have waited for rescue. Alexander attacked. He fought until his soldiers broke through the gates to save him. Another time, he was struck by an arrow that pierced his lung. He could barely breathe. But when his army feared he had died, Alexander forced himself to stand and show his face. The soldiers cheered with relief. Their king was alive, still fighting, still leading. This is why his army followed him across deserts, mountains, and endless miles. Not because they were forced, but because they believed in him. They saw his courage, his commitment, his willingness to suffer with them. Alexander did not ask for loyalty. He earned it. And that loyalty carried him to the edges of the known world. Alexander lived more than 2,000 years ago, but his legend still lives on. He showed that courage, vision, and bold action can change the world. And just like he explored new lands, you are exploring new opportunities through English. Every word you learn moves you forward. Thank you for being here. See you in the next story.